Um, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over the Waste Management Open. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that I have these lineups built. Yeah, okay, I do. So Bobby's actually going to be there, boots on the ground, give us his takes from the course. And what I'm going to be doing is just going through the sheets, going through my projections, going through ownership, and then we'll do a little bit of lineup building. We'll do some hand-built stuff. And later on at the live sweat later, which is going to be 11 p.m., where we go through the NBA, lobbies at the end of the 2500, whatever, I might do a final lineup build. So if you aren't around for that, that stuff gets recorded. So if you want to wake up early and take a look at that, that's fine too. But let's take a look at this slate. I'll pull up the DraftKings board over here. So I actually have a take on this slate. I think that there's going to be somebody who is going to be extremely overowned. That's going to be my take on this. And I really might, I don't want to say X him out, although it's possible I might. I certainly will get probably under the field on what my projections give me and under the field on what the Sims give me as well. I just feel as though his ownership is going to be significantly higher than being projected. I just think he's not as good a play as being projected. That's just my non-expert opinion, and we're going to get to that. You do see that Xander Schauffele has been ruled out. I hope you guys all get that. But let's take a look first at just the way the sheets look. And this is usually not displayed here, but because I'm doing this solo, I kind of like showing this off. So I just ran them now. And this is, again, this is a combination of a lot of different sites, a lot of different models, and they've all been back tested. And I can't even get into all the work I've done to make sure this is the best representation of what projections are and what ownership projections are. One thing that you'll notice when I rank these guys by Sheets value score, which is my kind of combination of both upside, of raw points and value, usually in golf, you do have the top rated guys near the top, but you get a random 8K or 7K guy up here in the top 10 almost always. And on this particular slate, you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it until you get down to to this range over here. So to me, what's probably going to end up happening is when we make builds, is that you're going to get a whole bunch of different guys from the 7K range, and you're not going to get someone that really dominates the proceedings. But before we even get into it, I will notice that there are, a couple of guys here. So you have Kurt Kitayama at 7,200. It's not as if he's extremely popular. He's about 10%. Siwoo Kim at 11%. Hubbard, 9%. Van Rooyen, Harmon. Harmon feels cheap, but again, we don't really care too much about that. Akshay at 11%. One guy that I'll also notice when I'm looking at my sheets here is you see Sahith. So I have him rated extremely low, and yet still he's getting 11% ownership. So this could be the guy who wins the tournament that we have 0 of. I mean, it's very possible. You have Matt Fitzpatrick rated all the way down here, 11% ownership. Sam Burns rated all the way down here. What you are seeing is that the top plays on the board are Scheffler, Thomas, and Homa. And Homa, you compare him, for example, to to Burns, you know, I do have Homa rated significantly higher at pretty much the same ownership. So Burns, again, is going to be someone who, if you're going to hand build, probably a good idea to fade, right? I mean, Homa's just same ownership, rated just a lot better. So when you're hand building, like those are the kind of my main takeaways here, is that you're probably going to want to play one of these 7,200s or 7,400s, that being, you know, Kitayama, Hubbard, Van Rooyen, and you're not going to get a big break in ownership. You know, it's not like you're going to be 2%, you're being like 10%, which is okay. Well, the question is, what do you do up here? You know, what do you do with the two clearly best plays on the slate if you look at the ownership, right? My opinion is that the Justin Thomas play is just kind of a lemon. That's just my take. It's just way too hipster and popular of a play. Golf is not as easy as this is making it seem. When I say this, this kind of like ramping up into a certain event, this idea that he's getting a little better and a little better, that's just not the way statistics works. And it's just not the way sports works, and it's certainly not the way golf works. And it wasn't too recently that you could have gotten Thomas, you know, down to like 9K here, and nobody was going to play him. And now that he's 10K, the whole world is playing him. This is I think somebody that you really need to fade. That's my opinion. I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, I might even consider Xing him out completely, just for no other reason than to get me a very unique construction. Now, when I do that, if I do that, I promise you this, that I'm probably going to get 100% Scheffler, which is another thing I don't particularly want. So what I'll probably end up doing is playing something like this before I even run anything. Probably like 50% Scheffler, and then 50% of like no Thomas with all these mid-range type builds like Homa and, you know, like literally all these guys. The other thing I don't see is too much is anything under 7K. So Doug Gim is my top under 7K guy. I usually have them rated usually about right around here, usually like 40th. So it's not that bad. So Spawn, Doug Gim, Sam Ryder. So if I were to build a hand-built lineup, which is what I'm going to do right now. Oops. It would probably do something like this. Let's get this up here again. It would be, we wouldn't play Thomas, so we'd probably start with Homa, right? And then I said I'd probably want to play one of these 7,200s. We'll start with that. Who's like the lowest owner, the highest rated, or whatever? I mean, anything. Kitayama is 7,200, 10%. Siwoo Kim 7,900, Hubbard 7,400. Doesn't really matter too much. So let's just take. Can we go down to Van Rooyen and save a little bit on ownership? And it's really not saving too much. So I would say Hubbard is probably where I'd probably start. So let's put Hubbard in. And I'll tell you this: if we're going to plan to play Scheffler, we're probably going to play both of them. So if you want to put Kitayama in as well, like for example, if you did that. See, this is hard. You know, if you want to get in both Scheffler and Homa, then you'd have to play more of these 7Ks, and now you're talking about playing that 67, the 6,900 guy I mentioned, who's Doug Gim, which is not bad. Right, you play Doug Gim, something like, I mean, any of these guys work, right? Oh, Van Rooyen, right? Or do I use him already? Yeah, Van Rooyen. So this is one type of build that you can make. You know, you play two guys at the top, and then you dip with these 7Ks. That's totally okay. But I want to see what it looks like, just for the hell of it, if I got rid of Scheffler. We'll just totally start over. And we'll start with Homa. And then we just play other guys. You know, like, for example, right now, if you play Homa, you have 8K a man left. Then someone like Bo Hostler, for example, you could probably play a bunch of these guys. Like, you played Hostler and On and Cole and Lee. Let's see what that looks like. So let's say you played Bo Hostler, Minwoo Lee, Eric Cole. You could almost get away with only playing one 7K guy. Almost. Not. I mean, you could. Who else here is above? Corey Connors. So you could almost do this, and then you're still playing as one 7K guy. I mean, a 6K guy. Or you could play, go back to Kitayama, and then life is easy, right? You play Kitayama, and then any of these 7,800 guys we talked about before. Atcha, I mean, any of this. So I think any of those builds kind of work. You know, you either play Scheffler with Homa and all these guys. You play Homa by himself with these other guys. But I do think that you want to play one of those two guys between Scheffler and Homa, just because of the way they rank. And again, this presumes that you're tossing Justin Thomas. Again, we run our lineup builds. It's not going to be so fortunate. We're going to get a whole bunch of Thomas, and you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. Yeah, that's my take for now. Now we'll do this a little bit later, but just for the hell of it, let's build a. Let's see what we would get if we did a. We'll do a regular lineup build, and we'll do a contest sim. We'll see what it is. Let's upload. And we'll build 150. Actually, we'll build 5,000, right? We'll see what we get. Wonder how much Justin Thomas I'm going to get on this build. Anyone want to guess? You think so, Noah? Let's take a look. That's an interesting question, Noah. Let's take a look at that. Let's see how many of them are going to show up. You might be right. It seems like a lot of money. If you play both of them, you're at 7K a man, right? That's one thing that's kind of cool is you can see how many you get of both of them. So let's see. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't actually. This is really funny. I'm getting almost no Scotty Scheffler. 2% Scotty Scheffler in the main build. What do you think about that? I think it's very interesting. And it's not as if the projection is weak, right? I have him projected 11 points higher than the next highest guy. You see this? Projection 98.95 versus 87. And yet still getting 2% of him. Which means, by the way, that this ownership projection just can't be right. I mean, like, Scheffler just can't be that highly owned. I mean, I'm getting like very little of him. Even if people use like regular optimizers, even if they jam him, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to be lower owned. This, you know what this also means? That Justin Thomas, as I mentioned, is going to be just crammed. Like, look at this. Like, without making any adjustments, you're getting 78% Homa and 70% Justin Thomas. And let's see how many of both of them we're getting. So you click on Thomas and Homa. Of the 150, 77 of them have both of them. Right? Let's take a look and see if doing a contest sim will change any of this. So what we're going to do is go to contest sim settings, add contest sim, and we're going to pull up the MMA, which is the dump truck special. And let's run that and see if there's a big difference between what we're getting with the regular Saber Sim builds and what we would get with the contest sims. So let's just see. MME, risk-adjusted ROI, and not too much different. You're getting 80% Homa, 70% Justin Thomas. So, boy, oh boy, here's going to be my question. Ready? If I X out Justin Thomas, what is going to happen to these builds? There's a couple of things that could happen. I want to predict it before it does, before I do it. Number one is that it's just going to get all the Scotty Scheffler, okay, just for the raw points. The other possibility is that it's going to yell at me and say it's not even able to get me 150 lineups within my 5,000. Those are my predictions. But let's just see. Ready? Justin Thomas X, apply. Let's see what we get. All right, so what ended up happening is that, yes, Scotty Scheffler moved up the list, but still to only 26%. So I'm getting much more of those other guys. Homa and Hubbard, whatever it is. And if I thought this was a little too aggressive, what I could do is to make our min uniques more, like min uniques 2, min uniques 3, and keep doing that until Saber Sim yells at me. It just did. Okay, so it just yelled at me at min uniques 4. So let's go to min uniques 3. Actually, min uniques 2, because that's what Jordan recommends, to go one less than the next one. And then we'd be getting something like this. And I'll tell you, this would be the type of construction that I would want if I were going to be fading Justin Thomas, which I might do. So that's pretty much all I want to leave you with today. I think in either case, Max Homa is a good play. I guess that's the lesson. And it's just the question of whether you want to play Justin Thomas or not. And the other thing, I guess, to learn is that Scotty Scheffler, even though he projects for a lot of raw points, it's not easy to get. You know, the lineups are not looking great with him. And that's really all I have for you guys. I'm doing a live sweat at 11. I'm also doing a live before lock at 6. And a lot of stuff going on this week.